We're getting into week 2 of XDefiant, and while it's a classic arcade shooter, there's still plenty that we're learning as we go, and by extension of trial and error, plenty of mistakes that we're still making that we can absolutely fix. Today, I want to run down 14 big mistakes you could be making and how to correct them so that you can come out the other side a better, more informed player, and hopefully that it can help make your playing experience a bit more enjoyable. So as we go along, drop your thoughts down below on what you're liking or disliking with XDefiant. How's it going for you? And if you'd like to add something to this list, feel free to drop it below. If you enjoyed the video or you find it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe for more XDefiant coverage along with other FPS content. I'd love to have in the community. Genuinely can't thank you guys enough for the love on the content here so far since the launch. I've been having a blast. Seems like you guys are enjoying it as well, which is great to see. So if you'd like to join us on that road to 600,000 subscribers, I'd love to have you, especially for part of that 64% of viewers who are not subscribed. But anyways, let's get into it. Let's start out simple and early into the playable experience, even before you jump into the game. Let's start out with some class creation mistakes. Firstly, one thing that honestly, as of the last couple of days, has become abundantly clear that it is the most useful item here, I think, in the class selection. EMP grenades. Use that more than anything else here in regards to your device selection. Sticky grenades and frag grenades, obviously they can end up getting you kills. Proximity mines can be a deterrent if you want to try and hold an objective or something like that. And flashbangs, it can maybe help in getting a kill a little bit easier, but honestly, when you look at faction abilities and things that can be just genuinely annoying to go up against in game, I find the EMP grenades to be the most beneficial. I mean, I end up coming into contact at least with 5 different shields that I have to go up to that are popped in gunfights or something like that, or as I'm approaching an occupy zone or a domination flag or something like that. Instead, all I have to do is just pop that EMP grenade, buy it, disables it, and then I'm good to take that gunfight. It's something that the players that pop those things usually aren't expecting that either, so you catch them off guard, and it's a wildly beneficial item to have at your disposal. Next, another mistake that myself and probably a lot of other people have been making is in regards to building your weapons properly. Sometimes it's this weird jumbled mess of what do I want to build my weapon for, and in trying to diagnose what you want, you don't quite take full advantage of the weapon's benefits in those attachments. Recognize what you may be struggling with on a weapon versus not, whether you want to kit it out for recoil, ADS, sprint to fire, magazine size. It is nice if you can end up getting a sort of well-balanced build like that, but sometimes it's just not how the hand is dealt sometimes. Sometimes it is way more beneficial to end up getting more recoil mitigating attachments, more mobility attachments, more magazine capacity attachments. Like for the Vector, honestly, one of the extended mags is absolutely something that I think is a crutch attachment. I personally don't find it all that usable with only 25 at base. So obviously you got to recognize what that is for that weapon, what those crutch points are, and build around those. That will then give you the best opportunity going into gameplay and gunfights. Now, talking gameplay mistakes here, the biggest one that I find myself doing is challenging more than I can handle. I'm gung-ho, I love to get into the action. This feels like a classic arcade shooter from days of old to me, and I just remember back in the day, I could jump into any gunfight, challenge a ton of different things, that if I jump into that now, right into the middle of the action, most of the time, I'll be honest, it gets me killed. I fully recognize that, because with the TTK of this game, with the importance of headshots, as we'll come back to in a second, challenging 1v3, 1v4 situations is possible, sure, if you're a great player, but the odds are obviously stacked against you. Sometimes the better option is to just play it a bit more passively. Play aggressively overall, sure, but sometimes stepping away from that engagement when, say, you're pushing a spawn with 4 to 5 players in there, it's the better move to just play passively. Hindsight is always 20/20, but if you can incorporate that into your playstyle, the understanding of what's going on, that will help you out so much. Perfect example is what you'll see on screen right now, where I challenge a gunfight. I know there's 2 there, I have the other one weak, but I end up getting a little overly aggressive. I was feeling my shot at that point, and I really wanted it, so I re-challenged it on weak health and didn't take any time to reset, and well, it got me killed. That happens quite a bit, so if you can avoid doing that mentally, you're good to go. Another mistake is sprinting into gunfights. Obviously, this is a fast-paced game if you can end up playing with it, but it's not nearly as bad as, say, Modern Warfare 2 and the slow sprint out times we saw there, but sprint out times will always be slower than players coming to a fire from the hip or even being gun up and ready. So it is something that if you can avoid sprinting into gunfights, if you know there's somebody around that corner, sprint to the edge of the wall, but then get your gun up and ready to go for that. Also, a little tip, if you do want to still play balls to the walls and go super aggressive, sliding and jumping into shooting is faster than that standard sprint to fire time that we talked about in a video yesterday. So take that into consideration. That can help if you slide and jump into a gunfight. but more so just make sure you're not sprinting into as many gunfights. Additionally, another mistake is not hitting headshots. They are so crucial in this game, and it shows. The TTK can be very punishing if you do hit 1 to 2 headshots, and with those multipliers, again, it's one of the most crucial shots you can land. And tying into that, utilize cover and head glitches where at all possible. The way the weapon bounce works in this game with a recoil, it's honestly kind of a challenge to consistently hit back-to-back-to-back headshots unless your weapon is fully kitted for recoil mitigation. And with that in mind, if there's a power position that can allow you to have some sort of head glitch, use that to your advantage because it's incredibly hard to pop an enemy off of one, especially if they're returning fire and are competent with their shots. So if that's you, you know how to shoot straight, you could be that one raising hell for the entire enemy team. Now, that said, beyond that, another mistake is not utilizing rotational aim assist fully. We've touched on this one before, but if it feels like your aim assist is hit or miss, it might be because you're not utilizing that rotational aim assist, the effect that will kick in when moving your left thumbstick. So always be in motion, and frankly, tying into that, always be strafing when possible. Moving targets are obviously always harder to hit than stationary ones, and again, it gives you that full benefit of the rotational aim assist, giving you a bit more stable of a shot while moving, so that's 2 advantages right there for you. Next, another mistake is to push spawns when you have full control. If you are playing solo and you have a decent team, or you're playing with a squad and are controlling spawns, you set up a spawn trap, just like COD games of old, watch how far you push up, because if you're controlling a spawn trap in, say, Domination, you can easily flip those players out and ruin the map control if you get too overzealous with your gameplay. If you get too aggressive and say, hey, I want all those kills, they're right there, I know they just spawned, but if you step into that spawn point, it could flip them out. Now, sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes in Occupy, you can end up still really pushing that spawn trap and going hard into that, but that depends on the map sometimes. Anyways, another mistake is aim point centering. This is something that is always so hard to do unless you master it naturally. I've played FPS games competitively for 15 plus years at this point, and I still find myself inadvertently doing it. It's a very bad habit that can cost you gunfights. You see that white dot on the center of where your hip fire would be? That's your aim center point, and that's when you ADS where your reticle and shots will be going. Again, sounds very basic, but a lot of the times you'll see players running around with that point towards the ground in some capacity instead of being hip height or a little bit higher. I don't know if it's just like the illusion of feeling like you see more in front of you when you're looking down, you see that peripheral of the sky in front of you, but it's something that does happen. But again, if that aim point center is down at the ground, you then have to micro adjust in that gunfight, which sure may not be a problem, but again, in a gunfight where split second is everything, that slight adjustment, if you were already aimed around hip to head height or something like that, obviously you're going to have a much better chance of getting your first shot to land before the enemies, as opposed to if you had to go from their feet up to their chest or something like that. So just practice with that, go into the firing range and play around with trying to keep that aim point centered, and it will help out big time. Again, it's just a bad habit that I honestly regress into a ton, so it happens. It's going to take some practice to get that to be natural. But anyways, beyond that, if you think you're in cover in a gunfight, think again. When you're around a wall trying to get away from incoming gunfire, don't stop, just keep moving until you either are safe or you die, because the netcode is still really bad in this game, meaning you're going to die around a wall, so keep going until you know you're good and there's no chance that you can die. And oftentimes, that enemy, if they're in a close enough proximity to you, will chase. So that gives you a little bit more time to heal up or to take a little bit of a regeneration period, and then you can re-challenge them as they round that corner to you. So that's something that can be a little bit of a 2 birds, 1 stone type of thing. And then finally, in terms of gameplay tips in-game, burning abilities and ultimates is a massive mistake that a lot of people make, myself included. There's a tough balance in trying to get it right between activating it with players around you so you can get the most out of your active or your ultimate, and activating it right before dying. So, for example, I have this bad luck of activating my intel suit or something like that right as I'm about to round a corner, and then an enemy pops out, and I'm like in mid gunfight where the hip fire isn't really helping me out all that much, and then I end up dying, but it still said that I started my ability. So I lose it, and then I have to wait either 30 seconds or the entire duration of the ultimate charge up. That it's just a lost opportunity for some free kills and some good information. So that's something that, of course, you want to make sure that you're trying to gauge that a little bit more accurately. Sometimes that comes down to just timing and luck. Sometimes it really comes down to, okay, maybe I shouldn't activate this just yet, or maybe I shouldn't wait too long to activate it. The final things we'll talk about are some mistakes that come down to mode-specific things, and realistically, these are not all that much in terms of quantity, but some things that I just wanted to mention that I see whenever I play that people make. Escort in particular, one thing that if you're on the attacking side, do not jump directly into the action. When those gates open up, stay back behind that spawn barrier for a few seconds, get either an initial pick and kill if possible, or information at the very least. Until you cross that barrier, you can't take damage. So getting an opening pick and giving your team the advantage early is good. It gets you in position to push against less defenders, while that one that ended up dying or multiple, they have to run all the way back to the objective after their respawn a few seconds later. And then oppositely, on the defensive side, play for information, but make yourself less apparently known. For example, peek areas that you can end up seeing when they'd be able to jump out from that spawn barrier, but that maybe they think you ran away. The map I always think of is Midway, that sort of defensive right side spawn where there's the boarded up concession stands. Once you go up to that right side hallway, you're gonna end up being able to peek into where that right side barrier is. But if you dip out to the left and go down those stairs towards mid-map, it kind of looks like you just leave the enemies alone. But if you see where an enemy pops up, you can time that where you can end up getting the jump on them. So that's a huge advantage to have. Definitely use that where available. And then the final thing in arena modes, one thing that I don't see enough people doing, but I end up getting kills because they don't recognize to do this, is make sure that you use your abilities early and often. Like for me, when I jump into a mode like Hotshot, Occupier, Domination, I'm usually rushing towards mid-map, and it's busted, but I love the Echelon intel suit. I pop that thing immediately once I get towards mid-map, and I get a few kills early because I see where everybody is that early on. I don't know that many people recognize that you start with that ready to go and you don't have to work towards it or have a sort of cooldown or charge time on that. So make sure that you're using that to your advantage as well. But that's 14 mistakes you may be making in XDefiant and how to correct them and to hopefully have a better gameplay experience as a result. So that said, that is going to wrap it up. Let me know your thoughts down below. Is there any mistake that you feel you're making that we can easily correct you'd like to add to this list? Whatever the case, drop your thoughts. Of course, we're all here for the same reason, to try and do better, to get more information and become a more informed player. So feel free to leave it down below. But if you enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things XDefiant, as well as other FPS content like Black Ops 6 content upcoming. Season 4 from Modern Warfare 3 just launched. We got a lot of stuff up on deck you guys will not want to miss. A very busy summer, so I'd love to have you in the community. But for now, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you later. Take care and peace.